As we know too well, the COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in catastrophic losses and has taken an immeasurable toll on people around the world, with India being one of the hardest hit countries. Mental health rose to the top of our radars as employers have had to implement new support structures amidst emergency lockdowns and a global health pandemic. Our new reality and our collective action begs the question: what does belonging look like amidst such a crisis? For this next session, we learn from leading employers in India on how they have responded and continue to respond, as well as the ways in which they are transforming commitments to mental health and well-being to the actual implementation of life-changing initiatives. Understanding the nuance of experiences like these yields lessons for individual leaders and companies alike in India and around the world. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. A very good day to you. I'm Ramkrishna Sinha, co-founder of Right Circle, and I'm super delighted to be moderating this wonderful panel and talking about a really important issue. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the wonderful panelists and give them a minute to talk about themselves, and then we'll jump into the topic. So we have with us Mukesh, who is Senior Vice President, Bank of America. We have Apoorva Gandhi, Vice President for Multicultural Affairs, Marriott International. Keshav Suri, co-founder of FICCI Task Force on D&I, Executive Director of the Lalit Suri Hospitality Group, and the founder of the Keshav Suri Foundation. We have Lakshmi C, Managing Director, Human Resources Lead, Accenture. A very warm welcome to all of you here. And let's go in the order you just introduced and take a minute and tell us a bit more about yourself. Mukesh?
Thanks, Ram. And it's really a privilege being part of this important discussion. And as you mentioned, I'm part of Bank of America. I'm based out of Hyderabad. I lead technology delivery for consumer banking, part of consumer banking, and really proud of the work we are doing at Bank. And it's all around. It's not just the business, but it's a lot more. And I'm really proud of my other role, which is being the leader for LGBTQ plus network within the bank for India. And we have done a lot of work in the last 3 years since we formed it. And it's all around like creating awareness amongst teammates and also impacting the policies, making sure that they are friendly for everybody. And the big ally community, we are 4,000 plus now, and which is really good for people to know and offer their support there. So yeah, again, thanks for the opportunity and look forward to our discussion.
Thanks, Mukesh. Apoorva?
Sure. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Apoorva Gandhi. I'm Senior Vice President of Multicultural Affairs, Social Impact at Marriott International. As some of you may know, we are a big hotel company around the globe with 7,500 plus hotels in a place near you, I hope, or anywhere you go on your travels. It's a real honor to be here. I have the honor and privilege of serving on the board of directors for Alton Equal. And my role is to really work hard every day to tell our story at Marriott about inclusion and how we welcome all to our hotels, to our workforce as a supplier or as an owner, no matter who you are, where you come from, what your abilities are, or who you love. And it's something that we take very, very seriously every day with every interaction. And I'm really delighted to participate in this panel. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Apoorva. Talking about hotelier, Keshav.
So hi, I'm Keshav Suri. I'm an executive director at the Lalit Suri Hospitality Group. We're not as big as the Marriott. We're a tiny boutique homegrown brand with 12 hotels across India, which have hotels, palaces, and resorts. I'm also the founder of the Keshav Suri Foundation. I really thought so hard on this name of Keshav Suri Foundation, right? Where did I come up with something like that? But it's an NGO, and it basically with the motto of embracing, empowering, and mainstreaming the LGBTQIA plus community. It runs the It Gets Better India program. I myself was also a petitioner in the 377 case, which was the law that criminalized homosexuality. And I'm happy to say that we won. I was one of many petitioners though. And yeah, so I'm just so happy to be a part of this conversation, and so nice to hear that there is at least one panel where there are more than one hotelier here. Okay, well, thank you.
Yes, hospitality is very well represented today.
Yes.
Thank you, Keshav. Lakshmi, would love to hear from you.
Hi, thank you, Ram. It's a pleasure and privilege to be here and to share our stories and how we've dealt with the pandemic in India, and how this kind of firmly has entrenched our need to focus on mental health, well-being of our people. My name is Lakshmi, and I lead HR for Accenture in India. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm based here in Bangalore in India. Quick background, I've been with Accenture for nearly 2 decades now, and I've had the incredible opportunity to kind of shape our people agenda as we kind of focus on getting towards a more equal and inclusive culture. That's a big focus and priority for us in Accenture overall and in India as well. I personally enjoy mentoring young people, especially young women, starting their careers from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. I'm also invested in supporting activities that enable persons with disabilities through my association with Lions Club. And through this, I am actually able to be a part of the solution in my local communities pressing social problems. On the personal front, I have a lovely family. I have a son who's 20 plus, my husband, same guy I've been married for the last 20 odd years, my in-laws, and they all are part of who I am. And the constant support that I have had throughout my career is because of them and them being my biggest cheerleaders. Before the pandemic, I used to enjoy traveling, but since the pandemic, I've discovered a new love, a love for birds. And we now have about 55 parrots and parakeets at home that they are who I go back to at the end of the day, and a huge stress buster. Thank you, Rob. Over to you.
That's amazing to have such a wonderful stress buster at the end of the day. And today we're talking about mental health. So it's a really wonderful idea, I would say, like having parrots, having pets, that they really do help. Today's topic is belonging in crisis and lessons for the world. So the estimates put that the number of COVID-related deaths in India was at over 420,000, and it was catastrophic loss for the country and it took an immeasurable toll for the people of India, but it's also reverberated around the world. There are multiple countries that were deeply impacted by the second wave of COVID-19. This crisis, thankfully, all the employers scaled up support for employees, from support in finding hospital beds, oxygen cylinders, to now massive vaccination drives for all their employees. So today's topic is about how do we really foster belonging in crisis situations, right? So I'll start with, if any of you would want to take this, like take a moment to share perhaps a conversation or an image that for you exemplifies what this extraordinary year in India has been like. Shall we start with Mukesh?
Yeah, sure. I can get started. And, when I look back, it's been really in no way ordinary year. There has been, and when I'm thinking of it, I'm recalling two personal incidences, which really were very impactful for me personally. One is, we lost our father-in-law, and my wife and we are here in Hyderabad, and that family back is in Delhi, and we couldn't travel. I mean, it was not possible to travel back. So that itself was a big setback, losing somebody and then not being able to even pay the respects properly. And there was a lot of struggle. To make it short. We were not getting any relatives also being able to travel to the home there, and some neighbors helped there, and 4 people, they could, bring him for cremation. And we were on video here. One of the friends was helping us participate virtually from here, which was very, very, extraordinary. I mean, I've never imagined anything like that. And we were sad and at our loss. And suddenly we saw that, in the camera, there's another cremation happening, and it's a lonely girl, early teens, and she had lost both her parents. And suddenly, the pain that we were feeling, that looked so small there. So that was, I feel that, what was going on. And then another thing, which comes to my mind is my brother, my elder brother. He was admitted for more than 40 days. And every day was like, whether we'll see tomorrow or not. And in between, there was the need for plasma. And we put on somebody told me and put on a chat window. And you'll not believe the kind of number of resources that came in. So many people from so many diverse backgrounds, they offered help. So we needed just 2 people to help us. And we had multiple people ready to help, even because while even commuting is so difficult at that point of time, but everybody's ready to make their efforts and help there. So that again, that reaffirmed my faith in humanity. And also that, how at some level we are all the same, irrespective of the, differences that we talk about there. So that's what, Ram, comes to my mind when I look at that period that has gone.
I'm so sorry for your loss, Mukesh, but this unfortunately is a conversation on the collective loss as a country and as people we face. Lakshmi, would you like to share?
Yeah, that is a hard situation to be in, Mukesh. My condolences as well. I mean, last year has been uniquely challenging for not just all of us in India, but the world over, everyone. And when we were hit by the second wave, it was unprecedented, not just in terms of the pace, but also in terms of how close to home it was for every single one of us, whether, if it makes, for some it was a family, for some it was friends, for some it was the colleagues, but there was nobody who had been left untouched across India. And none of us had seen this coming when we were going through the first wave. But what stood out for me personally was how during these tough times, we came together as one world. And that was most uplifting for me. It was a global crisis, and we saw a truly global response. And I distinctly remember this one weekend in April when we were in the middle of the second wave and probably week 2 of the second wave, and the cases rapidly rising, both in India overall as well as for Accenture in India. And we are a large organization in India. We are about 200,000 plus people. We are distributed across 8 to 9 cities. So it's fairly representative what the nation was going through. We were going through in Accenture. And my leadership team and I got into a working session over that weekend alongside our global CEO, Julie Sweet, our global CHRO, Ellen, and several other global leaders. And we worked through to determine what we needed to do to help not just Accenture in India, but India as a nation. And for me, that was a defining moment, because I took away courage and confidence coming out of that meeting, because I knew that while we were going through this, we were not going to go through this alone. We had each other to lean in on. We saw help therefore coming in from all parts of the world. We had oxygen concentrators getting sent to us from Europe. We were getting emergency support kits from around the world. Our people around the world globally were contributing to the families we lost. And the industry joined hands locally, globally, and there was no competition. We worked alongside with the NGO partners to make sure we could reach as many people as possible, dry rations or cooked meals or critical medical equipment and essential supplies to the community. So it was a really dark time, but the resilience of people, their compassion, their human spirit, the outpouring of help and support that came from all parts of the world, and how the world truly, truly came together in solidarity to help each other, because we were in this together. So that's what stood out for me. Back to you, Ram.
Absolutely, that's very true. It was all about we're going through a nightmare and then just coming together to just get through it. I would, with that, open Keshav to share his thoughts on experience with the pandemic at the Lalit and KSF.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ram. And again, I'm sorry for your loss, Mukesh. This conversation is really touching on various points of the fever dream that was last year, because honestly I feel like we were really in out-of-body experiences. I thought I will, have a sense of humor about it, and because that's how I've been able to cope this year. But I think that the tone that the conversation is taking is, of course, a very serious one. So when when the pandemic just started, social distancing and hospitality just are oxymorons. Our business is all about taking care of people, is about the human touch. And we were just, I think me and my team were sort of completely shell-shocked as to what was going to be our current and our future. But then when we saw that the country, and I'm particularly talking about how our brains all collectively work together, and said that, okay, we need to solve something, or we need to do something. We cannot just not do anything. And we then decided as a team, and this is my team's idea, not mine, to open up all our kitchens across the country. And we became feeding centers for pretty much every city that we were in. And as we stand today, we fed over 5 million people and distributed over 10 million kgs of food and ration across the country. And at the same time, we all saw there was news going around that doctors were not being allowed to go back to their homes because the community and the society people were not allowing them to come in because they were fearing that they were going to spread the disease. And so we stepped in and we took doctors in for the entire year who've been staying with us now. Some are still there, by the way, and it's been a year and a half. Let's be honest, the two industries that have really suffered are the hospitality and aviation. And we're still suffering, as a company. We're still only recovered 44% of what we were doing in 2019. But we've got a long way to go. But I must say that, again, it's just, it's an honor and a privilege to have such a beautiful team. On a personal front, I do think that this year has been quite devastating. I lost my uncle in the second wave, and I also lost my cousin through suicide. And that's the other thing. And I'm so glad we're having this conversation, is because whilst it's been a pandemic of epic proportions of this virus, there's also a pandemic of mental health and mental health issues that are not being as widely reported. And especially in a country like ours, where we shy away from conversations about mental health. And of course, the conversations that I had with my cousin, and he's my first cousin, also the only other openly queer member of the family, are conversations that I'm keeping, in my memory. And these are things that I keep hearing. And I guess when you lose somebody through suicide, you constantly think of whether you could do enough. And I think that it's also the way we perceive suicide. In many cultures, they believe that suicide, is honored, or it's at least where people can, decide how they want to go. But you still can't help thinking, what could you have done, and how differently could you have done? Especially when it hits so close to home. So one of the things that I did was that I, again, with this beautiful team of the Keshasuri Foundation, we decided to give free mental health counseling across for whoever wants to reach out to KSF. And we also have hired a psychiatrist for anybody who wants to reach out. And I have a scholarship in honor of my cousin, which is the Aditya Nanda scholarship. And that is a scholarship dedicated to the LGBTQIA plus community, whoever wants to, and it's a fully paid scholarship, whoever wants to have a career in hospitality, and whoever wants to have a career in the kitchens are basically open and welcome to apply. And we've got now over 12 students at our hospitality school. And so, yeah, sorry, I may have rambled and given too much.
Thanks, Keshav. I wish we were talking about fun, amazing things, but this conversation just a reminder of what all we have been through and so much we have lost. Apurva, I'll pull you in to talk about India and the global context.
Sure, happy to. And Keshav, Mukesh, Lakshmi, thanks for sharing these stories. I know that some of them, they're very difficult, and my condolences. When I think about the question of, what are some of the images or conversations that maybe, as we look back 5-10 years from now on this pandemic, I think a couple things come to mind. I think on a personal level, we've lost uncles and aunties in India, blood, relatives, and just not being able to mourn it properly or in the way that we are all used to. Because look, in our Indian culture, it's so important that we do it in the proper manner. Has been very difficult. It's very hard to do these things over a Zoom. It just doesn't feel the same. And also just being in the United States, for me, our Gujarati community here, losing other uncles and aunties in our community who I had sleepovers at their house. They, they treated me like their own kids, like that's the way our community is here, immigrant community in the United States. And losing a few, in this case, aunties, these are my parents' best friends. They're very close to me, and it was very hard to again not be able to mourn in the way that we want to. To hug my friends' parent, the family members. It's very hard, and it just doesn't feel right. And so those are some moments. I think on a professional perspective, what was also very poignant for me was during the midst last year when things had really just toppled, and we're still rebuilding. But to Keshav's point, the hospitality industry has just really taken a punch, in the gut. Was when Arne Sorensen, our former now, unfortunately past CEO and beloved still in our company and in the industry, recorded some videos to associates, just explaining what was going on, how it was going to impact the company and impact people's jobs. And it was a very transparent, emotional video. He himself was going through treatment for pancreatic cancer. So he looked like that, and he got very emotional during the video. It's actually a public video, you can see it. But it was a very emotional moment for all of us because he was explaining how this was going to impact people's jobs. This was going to impact people's roles at the company. And it was a moment where we saw our leader just really dealing with his own health issues, but also taking on the burden and the care of all of us too at the same time. And and really giving us the gift of transparency, of just explaining things as hard as it may have been to hear. But that's just something I still remember. And we miss Arne dearly. He's just a wonderful business leader, but also an incredible human being, just a very genuine person. On the positive side, though, I think to Lakshmi's point, the idea that people were really coming together. So, watching our hotels, and we have a forum called Business Councils around the globe, which are collections of hotels. So we have an India Business Council that all the hotels come together to do good things, and watching them take food to hospitals, send PPE, for our frontline workers, things like making sandwiches, gathering food, sending supplies, making our ballrooms, which were sitting empty, available for blood donations and things like that. Watching the different groups come together was very heartwarming and really made you feel that, we're coming together.
Seen leaders to be resilient, strong, and now we're just collectively dealing with loss, and that vulnerability and the transparency has become a different form of communication and different kind of engagement with not just your employees, clients, and everyone else. I'll talk about that in a bit, but I just want to get 2 cents from both Keshav and Apurva about the specific impact to the hospitality industry because of the pandemic.
Keshav, would you like to go first, or?
No, you please go ahead, Apurva.
Okay, sure. Okay. As I just mentioned, and I have full agreement with Keshav that the hospitality industry is still in recovery, right? I mean, it's for Marriott, globally, we have different pockets of areas that are in different stages of the recovery, and it has been very hard. I mean, it has been hard and heartbreaking in many ways to watch, I would say, the impact of this on our guests, right? Many people love to travel, and that's how they spend time with their families, spend time working, spend time doing what they love, and to watch that just kind of go away last year so quickly. I think everyone remembers there was a moment in March last year where everyone was like, oh my gosh, right? And just the speed at which everything tumbled was just remarkable. But so, for our guests, we were very saddened. And then also, for our associates, I mean, if you think about all of us travel, right? If you think about the people you see in the hotels on their feet every day, working hard, cleaning the rooms, greeting you with a smile, and to see those opportunities and livelihoods disappear is heartbreaking, And I think that when we, this world, this nation is just really stressed out, and our industry is really stressed out, because people were worried about the industry, their hotels, because in the hospitality industry, like many industries, it's a very team-oriented, industry. People say hospitality, once you get it it's in your blood. Like you love it, like you really love it, And we have people at Marriott who've been here for 30 plus years, I've been for 17 and I'm still like the baby, in the company of 17 years, And so people, like, it's part of their lives, and to have that section of their life disappear for some time is very hard. And then also, then the stress of just being furloughed or losing their job and what that does to the family, right? Personal stress then. Do they still have a job? What am I going to do? I think it led to a lot of need for mental health programs. We've had those for a while, but I really feel it put a bright light on it's okay not to be okay. It's okay, And especially for Indian culture where, you don't talk about those things too much. You kind of just keep it to yourself. I think it was really important that, at least in the work context, that we provided the materials in a confidential manner, that people could log in, have some assessments confidentially, privately, and then we could tailor those to what people needed. We work with a group called Mequilibrium, very, very, I would say, data science-based analytical approach towards mental health, where people could check in, talk about, through some questions, kind of identify how they're feeling. And then this Mequilibrium tool would then generate, well, try this, try that, try this on a daily basis, if you like. Or, if folks prefer, we definitely had confidential helplines that they could talk to, be referred to someone who could help. But also is our leadership understanding this and promoting it as well, that it's okay not to be okay. My boss will say, hey, look, if you have moments during the day, go take a walk outside. It's okay. Take a call outside if you need to, just to get some sunlight, So I think it was the combination of things like that, and we're still going through it, right, Keshav, right? We're still in this. So anyway, those are some of the impacts, particularly for hospitality, and how we've approached it.
Keshav, would you like to add?
Yeah. So, I mean, for us, what immediately came is, because we're the owners and promoters, we had to first make sure that we protect our team. It was just about how do we make sure that the team And for as long as we could, we held on to as many people as we could, and made sure that the people that were at the lower income wage bracket in India, we did not cut a single day salary. So what we did was we basically took a top-down approach. My mom and my three sisters, we haven't taken a salary in the last 2 years. And we refused to, because immediately we needed to protect our team members. Our corporate team, which is basically the vice president levels, have all taken massive pay cuts so that the guys down below don't need to be suffering on and continue to, by the way, because we're still here. And like I said, we're only 66% of what we were doing in 2019. There is a recovery that is happening now. We are on an upswing. I do hope that that continues. We've also sort of changed our models around. We've had to be quite innovative. So we had to, we went into things like home delivery, things that we've never done before. And as well as models where we focused on people working in the hotels, so something as a workation and even staycations to be able to cater. But again, making sure that our team was safe first. So the mandatory protocols that were set by the WHO and as well as the Indian government, which, by the way, were quite expensive as well, to get everyone to wear masks, to sanitize, to all of that. It's an expense to be constantly cleaning. But we did it so that our guests would be able to feel safe. And again, our team would be able to feel safe. Mentally, of course, this has been very taxing and draining as well. There is only so much so that my team could really focus online. I think that now everyone has just gotten sick of, just constantly seeing videos. Everyone's attention span has sort of, diminished up and unless you're really, I think first 5 minutes is when people really concentrate, and then the rest of the time is just noise. Sometimes I just feel like I'm just talking to myself, and the team switches off their camera, and we keep it as fun and light as possible. So what we did in particular was that we started a lot of conversations on Friday, where we got experts, including you, Ram, to come and address the team, to be able to give them an insight of all the activities that we did pre-pandemic, because that's how the world is going to be, at least for the hospitality industry. It's always going to be pre-pandemic, during, and then hopefully soon post. And that's how we're going to be, our books are going to be made. But we had conversations with the team, and that we thought maybe we could take our chance in talking to about, because I think these were conversations that we may have not done in previous years. And we talked about actually mental health in a big way, but we also brought up issues of casteism in India, which is again a conversation that nobody really talks about, and we definitely try and avoid in the hospitality industry. We talked in particular about the subgroups within the LGBTQIA plus community, and then we really focused on the trans community, the transgender community, which has a huge history in India, but still does not have the kind of acceptance and love from society, whilst there are they have, of course, a lot of law that are supporting the trans community within India. But again, in terms of the corporate world and just in general, hospitality in general has not been exceedingly welcome to the trans community. And so these were sort of conversations, and especially with the team that I have who are openly trans, and them talking to my team all across India, I think sort of brought us sort of closer. Coming back to the impact to the industry, it's going to take at least another year or two for us to really get back fully on our feet. I really do wish that every country took a different stance to tourism. So a lot of countries actually went and in the announced furlough schemes and actually protected some of the hotels and hospitality industry. Whilst it may not have been the most effective means, but at least there was something done. I do feel that us in India, we did not maybe take hospitality as seriously. There have been no economic stimuluses here. There have been no bailouts here. And therefore, it was really each company to their own. And I think that that kind of sense of dread may impact the future, because there might be so many people in the future who will be like, okay, if it's not taken as a serious industry, or if it's not taken thing, why would we even join it in the first place or put ourselves? Because like Apurva said, hospitality is all about passion. You don't think from here, you think from here. But then there has to be some incentive, right? There's only so much so that passion can take you to. And I think that this is now time for us to maybe wake up a little bit as a country, and as also support system with support industries to really go out there and support the industry and the hospitality world in India, because right now we really truly do feel alone. And isolation, as you know, in this pandemic has just made us, really affected us in ways that we probably will still continue to know about in the future years.
Thank you so much, Keshav. Isolation is never good either for the individual or the industry. So we should collectively definitely figure out ways where we support different industries together and like kind of pull everyone along. That's the whole idea, right? Mukesh, I'll come to you, and then Lakshmi, about your insights on unique challenges your organization face. There's a little difference based on technology. There's work from home, something that companies already practice. So that transition would have been definitely simpler and more opportunities to transition to a full-time work from home model. So how was it transitioning? What were the challenges in delivery, time management? Any thoughts and you would like to share?
Yeah, definitely, Ram. And in fact, my best wishes goes to Keshav and Apurva for really get into the post-pandemic world soon. We read it in papers or articles, etc., but it's very different speaking to somebody who is firsthand going through that. So really, from that point of view, our industry, fortunately, the technology, you can work from home. And that was a big, I believe, is a fortunate aspect, that where our people could be employed, they could continue close to what they were doing before pandemic. So it was very close to what was happening. And in fact, as we were listening the news of all this going to come, we were practicing and we were doing some pilot exercises, trying to make certain people work from home in teams, rotating or so. And we didn't have a chance to do that experimentation full. And before we knew, it was already there. And at some point we have to say that, it is no more a pilot, it's a real. So all of you are actually working from home. Overall, it worked out well from the delivery or the work perspective. In fact, I see that it's been more work happening. And there have been a lot of government relief programs which triggered a lot of technical projects there to make sure that we can honor all those business and individual commitments and all that. So it's been a lot of work from that perspective, and teams are also they have been well integrated across US and India. I mean, it's an agile world, and we'll have part of the team here and part of team there. They have been working, collaborating. We had earlier in the year, in the US side, we had a big impact, and later in the India side, and I have seen that huge collaboration happening. There were a lot of enterprise initiatives also in terms of balancing the load, or taking out some of the unessential, some of the non-essential kind of activities that we do, and make it a little lighter for everybody to take care of everything. But I think what thing stood out for me was really those connections that were happening at all levels in the organization. I mean, those conversations where there was a genuine interest in the well-being of the other side there. So I think that's what really stood out. And I remember one conversation with a colleague, and from US, he asked me when we were in the midst of the April-May time frame, what can I do? And then he came with the idea of putting a support board there where, anybody, because a lot of people in US that time, they wanted to reach out, they wanted to, call out there. So he created a virtual support board where everybody could post a message. And it was so overwhelming. Like if you look at that and the kind of support that was coming, I just really felt, in Sanskrit, there is a saying, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? So which is world is one family. And it truly was that. So it looked like, we are one big family and we are together in this. That's what, stands out for me from that period when I look at. In fact, I'm tempted to share, one personal experience. I'll tell you from my school days, there is a little prayer that I do every morning when I get up there. And it is like, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukh Bhagavad, which loosely translates to, may everybody be happy and everybody be healthy and everybody look after each other and nobody should suffer. I just used to do it mechanically, and this period, I mean, each word there that resonates to me that, with so much going on, it became very different for me that, the whole experience. So yeah, really hoping the worst is behind us and then, we all move on in a post-pandemic world now.
Thank you, Mukesh. Totally. We should really quickly transition to post-pandemic world, but yeah, let's see how it goes. Lakshmi, how was your journey and experiences at Accenture?
Yeah, I mean, for us at Accenture, we've been working virtually for a very, very long time, in the sense that we don't necessarily have any corporate office where everybody sits. And so our people have been used to working virtually because we've been supporting clients who are sitting in a different part of the world, sitting out in India. So this whole concept of working virtually was not new. But what was new is, everybody working virtually. Literally, I mean, we had to overnight get everybody, all 200,000 people, enabled to start working from home and build therefore very new ways of working together, leveraging technology. But I think, in my view, while it has undoubtedly stress-tested organizations, including ours on the people front, it has also spurred a lot of innovation. It has spurred a lot of reinvention, enabled new learning. In my view, the pandemic, if I look at the only positive side, the silver lining, as they say, is this has led to the world's biggest experiment in virtual working. And that has largely been, in my view, a successful one. And as an organization, all of our clients have been hugely disrupted. Marriott is one of our key clients here. So, I mean, Bank of America is, and all of them have been disrupted big time. And therefore, we've been able to leverage our learnings and our experiences of working in a highly digitized way virtually, and kind of really work with our clients to help them transition and becoming even more, even work further ahead in their digitization journey. But having said that, I think, as we listen to our people, as we listen to our clients, people are getting used to this kind of a little bit of a hybrid way of working, both in person as well as virtual, and that's likely to be the future. And I think our lessons learned through this period is truly one of, in this environment, and I think I heard Apurva share this about how his CEO shared this at the start of the crisis. In this environment, as we move towards a more hybrid, as we continue to work in a hybrid environment, I think building and retaining the trust of our people is going to remain paramount and central. And that's what, all of us leaders around the world have to be focused on, investing more time in connecting and communicating and establishing those human connections, leveraging technology. Technology is not the solution as much as it's going to be remaining an enabler. But I think the focus has got to be, how do you build those human connections? How do you build those relationships on virtual relationships of trust, so that people continue to feel that they belong, they continue to feel included, no matter where they're working from, no matter what their backgrounds are. And I think to a large extent, this has actually evened out the playing field a little more to some extent. I was like I said, we've always had virtual conferences, internal meetings as well, but if there were 3 people sitting in a room and 4 people dialed in, say, through Teams or Zoom, the folks in the teams in the room somehow felt more connected than the ones who were connected with virtually. But with this, everybody is virtual. So the level of inclusion in the conversations has actually gone up even further, where everybody gets an opportunity to participate and dialogue and discuss and feel truly connected and be a part of the conversation.
Absolutely true. Switching gear and also in light of amount of time we have left, what are the unique practices or solutions that organizations came up with to support their employees and particularly at-risk communities, including LGBT community at workplace? What were the few things which your organizations did to support employees get through this difficult time?
Again, for us, our biggest priority, just like Keshav mentioned, was to ensure the safety and well-being of our people and their families. And we have a large number of people here in India. The 200,000 people plus their families is close to probably 1 million people that we believe we need to support and take care of. So in addition to some of the, complimentary virtual teleconsultation or, procuring some of the oxygen concentrators and care at home kits or dedicated teams, the COVID warriors that Keshav talked about, who constantly stayed in touch with people and helped them when they or their dependents were tested positive, or enhancing benefits like insurance, caregiving leave, or quarantine rooms, tying up with some of the hotels, and increasing our focus on mental well-being even more. But the pandemic has unfortunately, in my view, deepened some of the pre-existing inequalities for our diverse groups in the society in general. So at Accenture, our commitment to a culture of equality just got further strengthened, right? And we sharpened our focus on the support needed by some of the least represented members, including members from the LGBTQI and parents and other groups, right? For example, for parents, we came up with innovative solutions like virtual summer camps that provided parents with resources to keep their young children constructively engaged while they were working from home, and the children were also at home. We launched a virtual village. It literally takes the concept of it takes a village to raise a child by creating a platform that connects children of Accenture employees who needed help with their learning assignments with other children of other Accenture employees who could then coach them, right? So again, looking at leveraging technology to bring a concept of actually connecting people. I spoke about mental well-being to really enable people to overcome some of the feelings of isolation that is wrought by social distancing. In addition to enabling access to experts and physicians and organized sessions, we had dedicated separate sessions for members of the LGBTQ community within us, because, this is really for the community members to kind of share their own challenges and stories of how they were coping so they could help each other. And then we separately did a session that included all our allies and our team members and supervisors to kind of sensitize them on some of the challenges faced by the community and highlighting their role as allies and how it is even more important during the pandemic when everybody's in lockdown. And then we created a closed group community employee resource group for people from the community in India to kind of create a safe space for them to meet, discuss virtually, and learn from each other, and to also hear from LGBTQ counselors, from therapists, from mental wellness experts in a safe, closed group community. And then we've got this beautiful program called the Hues of the Rainbow, where really it's a forum where members and allies come together, share their stories, share challenges, and help each other. And this year we focused on really helping people look at some of the intersectionalities. And through the pandemic, the other beautiful thing that happened was, while we have about a very, very large ally group, we have about 50,000 people who signed up as allies. But during the pandemic, we saw a large number of our leaders signing up to become allies, which then further really helped shape the conversations to become even more inclusive and ensure there is more equality in discussions. And lastly, I think this was like a really big difference we were able to make this year. We announced significant revisions to our leave policies that kind of break the gender stereotypes to focus largely on caregiving. Our parental leave policies, earlier it was maternity and paternity, our parental leave policies now became maternal, paternal, adoption, and surrogacy leaves that have moved away from gender binary stereotypes and extend to whoever is the primary and the secondary caregiver. Our bereavement leaves go out to same-sex partners. We made changes to our life insurance nomination. It was earlier restricted to spouse or family members. We now include any person nominated by the employee, irrespective of the legal definition of that relationship. So through all of this, we kind of stayed anchored to our core values and our commitment to equality. And by leading with compassion in these times, I think we are able to truly enable all of our people to bring their whole selves to work while also ensuring their well-being.
Thanks, Lakshmi. That sounds like some really brilliant progress. Mukesh, I'll pull you in for your thoughts on that. What are the few things at Bank of America?
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot would be common across the board around mental health.
Yes. So in fact, I will not repeat all that because we work in similar industry, and a lot of that has been very similar. Our approach, employees are at the center of everything and want to make sure that we take care of their physical as well as mental, as well as their financial well-being there. And a lot of programs were already in place there, and there was a action to look at, where we can enhance, where we can make it COVID-proof, to say, like, where everything is covered for them and they don't really have to worry there. So a lot of that was happening, and something I'm really proud of that, which with the help of our parent organization, which we could do, were specifically focus on mental health there. And some of the programs were very unique. So we have this employee assistance program where there is a professional counselors available for any kind of, whether it is a stress related, or is it a depression, or is it a domestic violence, and you can have that conversation and somebody's there. I mean, it's a 24/7 helpline. I think that was well used there. We had a tie-up with an app called My Strength, which I personally used, and I found it so useful in such times there. It's a great personalized app, and it gives you things that you can do confidentially. You do not have to really be with anybody else there. And that given the subject, nobody wants to talk about it there. So I believe having it like an app and, personally dealing with it and getting that positivity, that was, again, something, I can add to which has helped us. And we have a partnership with Thrive Global, which we used to train all the employees. So earlier, these were regular programs, but during pandemic, they become, as Lakshmi also mentioned, so it's not just our employees we are talking about, it's the whole big family of their families as well there. So a lot of these programs we actually rolled out to the families as well, which really was the need of the hour there, because no employees working in isolation there. And something which personally, I feel connected to, being a leader for the LGBTQ plus network that we have. We have other networks also, and each network played a very big role in terms of organizing various events, which were very meaningful and very, very much needed at that time. And I can share with you, for example, just to give it a little life, that one iGen, which is the intergenerational network we have, they organized a yoga session, and I just happened to be there. And the yoga they were doing was how to deal with stress coming out of grief. And I didn't believe that, doing something for half an hour or 45 minutes can have that kind of impact in your life, but it was. So a lot of such things that were happening, I think, which were just happening in such a distributed way across organization. I think that really stood out there. And initially, I believe you talked of community service there. So initially, there was a shocker. I mean, we are used to doing community service in a certain way. And then suddenly, we are in a situation. But I think teams quickly figured out there. And I see, even in 2021, if I see that there are about 16 large projects going on with about 14 of nonprofit organizations right now. And we have more than 8,000 people who are actually contributing in those there. So it's really, it picked up after initial lull there. And LGBTQ plus support is very close to my heart. And I was very glad that we did some of the things pre-pandemic, just touching it, and which was so meaningful during the pandemic. We had a transgender transition going on during the pandemic. And it was not just the medical part of it there. It was making sure that she settles in her team well, and all that education that was needed to the team there, that was going on. So proud of, because of the strong network, that had already been set up. So we didn't have to do much there to make sure that, all that kind of work goes on. And of course, we work with the community, for especially transgender community there, and which were highly affected by the whole pandemic situation there, where the livelihood was at risk there. So we continue to work there to provide those life skills and the trainings that we do through our community program there. So yeah, I mean, very similar, I think, across industry. But the key thing was making sure that listen what employees are looking for, and very quickly, in a very agile way, fine-tune those programs there. I think that's something that stood out.
Thanks, Mohit. That's such an important point. Listen to what your employees want and just reciprocate in the right way. We'll come back to you, Apurva, for a quick thought on talking about leading with authenticity and vulnerability in today's world. You're still belonging in crisis. So what does that mean, especially for LGBT people at the workplace?
Yeah. I think a couple of things. I just hearing the examples are just fantastic examples from the colleagues here on the panel, and we've done quite a few of those as well. But when we think about leading with authenticity, it comes down to your company's culture, right? It comes down to what are the values of the company and how leaders role model those behaviors, not just when times are good, but also when times are very difficult, like what all of us have been through in the last 2 years, let's just say 18 months, 2 years. That's when it really counts, right? So one of the things, we have a culture, we call it Take Care. And, it's all about putting people first. And that means all people, right? No matter who you are, what you look like, where you come from, or who you love, or what your abilities are. And making sure that we have programs that are tailored to everybody, but also are distinct enough that they are valuable to everybody. It's like making sure that they're equitable and are helpful in the right way. One of the things that we did, so if you think of Marriott, we have, let's just say, 7,500 plus storefronts around the globe, right? Our hotels. So it's not fully like in a location. It's not fully virtual. It's everywhere around the globe. And so much of it is in person as safely we can. But we created and disseminated, culture toolkits to make sure that we're putting out, listen, in a time of pandemic, these are the things that you can do to make sure that your associates feel valued, feel engaged, feel taken care of. Right. And we try to put those things out. So a leader, a general manager of a hotel who's already going through so much, has something that he or she can use easily. So they don't have to, create something if they want to tailor it and localize it, that's fine. But we want to make it easy for people to do, because at our company, our culture is so important. We always say, take care of our associates. They'll take great care of the guests, and the guests will keep coming back, right? So that's been very, very important for us to do. I think the other thing is just, again, role modeling leadership behaviors, and role modeling, again, that it's okay not to be okay. When you have leaders talking about using, Mukesh, you mentioned My Strength, right? That's something we're very familiar with, or Mequilibrium, or Headspace, or any of these things. When leaders talk about it, people listen, and they say, yeah, you know what, maybe I'll try it out, and then next thing you know, people are using it, and then they're finding value in it along the way, and people, and that's a good thing. The other last thing I'll just say, as we're running short on time, is we all know the famous quote from Mahatma Gandhi. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others, right? And I think that for many folks who are going through a hard time, obviously we want to give them tools to help themselves, but also provide them opportunities to help others if they wish, right? And for many, they found that act of helping others actually helped them because they felt like they were doing something to help. And there was this good vibes and et cetera. And then the last thing I'll just mention, as we had to make difficult decisions around furloughing and, those kind of things, we always made sure to, in many cases, provide for healthcare at least, right? Provide at least that people still had benefits where we could, so that they weren't just left without that. And that was very, very important for us to do. So those are some examples of, I think, concrete things, but also maybe some leadership acts in talking about and addressing how hard this is in a transparent way.
Thank you. Thanks, Apurva. Quickly, sure. Keshav, any things you'd like to share about?
I'll them off.
Quickly.
I think the biggest thing is that we've survived. And that we're here today. I think survival was one of the biggest challenges of last year, and especially for the hospitality industry. I have to say that at least at the Lalit, I'm so proud of the fact that we did all of these, be it, the same-sex insurance, be it the covering of the sexual reassignment surgeries, be it, having people from the LGBTQI plus community, as well as differently abled community, as well as acid attack survivors, be in the front, be it on the ramps of Kirisu, in my nightclubs. I've been there, done that, if you will, if that's a good thing to say. So I think that, and I did that, of course, much before the pandemic. I've been doing that since 2011, since we opened Kirisu. And in fact, even before that, for the other sort of intersectional communities. So I think that it is because of what we did that I have survived today and these 2 years. And I think the campaign that we've been pushing out for years within my team is the Pure Love campaign. And Ram, you're fully aware of it because you've stayed in so many of our hotels and we've worked, together in an insane number of times. And I think that essence of pure love is what stuck with my team. And I think that's why I didn't have to tell my team that let's take care of others to make ourselves feel better. They just did it on their own without me even having to mention it. And it did, and within minutes, we had the results. And yes, I think more inclusive companies are the companies that personally I feel are the ones that are surviving today. So we just made sure that we continued, of course, all of that, but in a virtual platform. We have a mascot who is Elfie, who's written also children's book. So what we did was we took Elfie and took Drag Queen Story Hour and made it virtual and did that with all the kids of the Lalit family. And we basically just took every model possible. But for us, we really now need things to open up because we wanna feel people again.
Thank you. Okay, closing comments. This is for the audience. One thing that they can take away from this conversation and can apply to their day-to-day work, be it people managers, business leaders, or employees. Lakshmi, will go with you first. One learning.
Okay, I'll give you two. One is in a corporate environment, which is really for all people, leaders, creating the psychological safety to create that inclusive environment where everyone feels valued, seen, they feel heard. And I think this is truly a moment where people have to show genuinely that they care and be open and human. And across personal or professional, the second ask I would leave is for really people to lend their voices and support, both at work and at home, be it as the accepting parent who stood by their child, or the supportive co-worker who spoke up against a homophobic joke, or the supervisor who uses pronouns, and the caring friend who stands up against bullying. I think right down to even filmmakers changing, the conversation through films. I think we all have a responsibility across different dimensions of work and life to create an environment where we truly, truly make people feel safe and included.
Thank you. Mukesh?
Yeah, so I think whether you're a manager or whether you're a teammate there, I think one thing that you can definitely do is, your colleague or teammate as a whole person, connect more, spend more time, talk more, listen. I think that makes a huge difference. And what I'll say is the key is being proactive in seeking and offering help. So that's important. Let's not shy away from doing any of that.
Thank you. Apurva?
Yeah, I think I agree with what's been said here. I think the key word is empathy. It's empathy. It's listening. It's really listening and understanding that there is no one solution fits all, right? Everyone is different. Everyone is unique. Those uniques are beautiful. Those unique items are beautiful, but also mean that people need different kinds of assistance, and being respectful of that and thinking through what is the best way that you can offer assistance. Sometimes it's just listening. Sometimes it's just providing resources. Sometimes it's understanding that people have different scenarios, right, based on who they are. And just with some genuine empathy, that I think is the key thing to help people work their way through this.
That's super. Keshav, one thing.
I think pretty much everyone has said it and said it so eloquently. I would just completely ignore your question, Ram, and just completely throw something else out there and just give a piece of advice to people, saying that everyone is now fully aware of what companies stand for and what company has been doing inclusion, as a part of their DNA. And what are just doing it for a marketing gimmick. And I think that I would really request every company out there to really spend their money wisely and put, and support companies that have been doing this for a very long time. Because, we need to support each other. I think D&I companies and companies that take D&I very seriously should support other companies that do that. And individually, also, all of us should be able to really put our money where our mouth is, and also our money in the right places.
Absolutely. This is so wonderful. Crisis and belonging is not just about individuals or employer-employee. It's about individuals, communities, workplaces, and industries. How do we belong together in this world and survive and thrive and support each other? So I think that's a wonderful message which I get from this panel. Thank you so much for taking time out to talk to me and share your insights and the work you have been doing in this space. Sorry again, and condolences to all the loss that we have seen in the past year, the world has seen in the past year. Lost people, friends, family, relatives, and still dealing with that loss. So may there be strength to just proceed ahead and deal with grief and overcome, and that we can do together. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.